Welcome back to another edition of the Talking National League podcast. Episode 32 it is on this Thursday evening. And I'm joined by Trevor Nell tonight to preview all the upcoming National League games, which is of course Game Week 3 and are to be Game Week 33 and is to be played on Saturday. Some big fixtures obviously coming up in the National League at the weekend. Previous to that, we saw Wrexham drop points at home to Woking. Notts County had an early scare, conceding to Barnet, but managed to have a great second half performance, picking up all 3 points, scoring 5 goals in the second half. Down near the bottom of the league table, Oldham, of course, drew against Gateshead on Tuesday evening. They obviously host Maidstone on Saturday too, and the BT Sport game, Bournemouth versus Halifax. A lot more fixtures to preview too. I'm pleased to be joined by Trevor tonight. Trevor, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, fine, thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem. Great to have you on. Would you like to give your non-league page a bit of a plug?
Yeah, go on then. www.footballwriting.co.uk. That's my main site, which is a pay-for subscription service, but also gives everyone a free piece every Friday. And then trevornell.substack.com is where I have a little Barnet page, so you wouldn't believe what happened at Barnet FC, which is a cracking title that one of my mates came up with for me.
Yeah, good title that is. And I know a lot of the articles are quite informative recently, give you opinions on the current situations. Obviously, a lot of things are going off in the National League at the moment at this time. Massive steps moving forward. A lot's changing with the National League on a positive note, but of course, on a slight negative note too. You did a slight article on Southend United, which I had a little read at too. Yeah, not a good situation there, but we won't talk about off the field issues tonight. We'll talk about the positives on the field for Southend United, because it seems to be going there right there at the moment with them. Obviously, we've got a few people coming in the chat. Welcome to everyone that has tuned in tonight. Also, to anyone that's also new to the podcast, please remember to like and subscribe, and also let us know your views in the live chat too. Kobe, who's Aldershot fans, come in and said, "Evening, boys. Aldershot are going to batter Wrexham. Maybe a slight bit more hope now. With obviously Wrexham dropping points in midweek." Ryan Brooks come in tonight as a York City supporter, welcoming Kobe to the stream. Ian Birchnell, a regular podcast listener, tuned in tonight. I hope you do to Kobe, because of course Notts County will be hoping for another opportunity for Wrexham to drop points. Another Notts County fans come and said, "Up the Notts," but Barnet looked a very good side. The score didn't reflect the game, in my opinion. Ian's also said, "Evening all," and we've also got Zach, who's a Bromley fan tonight, who said, "Evening." Like I mentioned, if you do want to get involved with the live chat, please feel free to do so if it is your first time, and also remember to like and subscribe. Without any further ado, then let's get into some of the upcoming National League fixtures. So I think a good place to start off with would probably, if it does load here, right around there, a good place to start off with. Let's start off with Torquay versus Barnet, your club then. Barnet, like you mentioned, if you want to talk a little bit about them and their recent form, you are free to do so.
Well, we're enjoying a season that's probably well out of expectations of everyone that's watched us play this year. We expected to be a little bit better than we were last year, than in 18th place. I think I had us down to finish somewhere between 12th and 16th, which would have represented another good, steady foundation step. But these players have been absolutely superb as a group. They're a real tight-knit bunch, which is, I think, shown in especially the last few weeks, where we've not conceded goals, we've kept clean sheets and just purred on it's just like a juggernaut, going and winning games left, right and centre. Whether we've been in front, whether we've been behind, we've had the character to go and get the 3 points.
Yeah, one of those, of course, was against Halifax a week ago, last Tuesday, where they came to the Share. Obviously, Halifax took the lead early on, and Barnet came from behind to score 3 goals at the Share, and that's quite a rare thing to do, and shows how strong Barnet obviously are to come to somewhere like Halifax and get all 3 points. But not only that, but score 3 goals as 2. Notts County gave them a slight early scare as well on Tuesday evening. Of course, tiredness is a factor, and we were talking a little bit about this before we did go live on air, and obviously Barnet fixture congestion may come into play. We've also talked about Barnet still being in the FA Trophy. Is that something that could be an issue for you with the FA Trophy going on as well, and the constant Saturday Tuesday fixtures that keep happening?
I think when you look at it, you think it's likely to be, but the last few weeks it's actually just seemed to have spurred the team on to carry on winning games. I mean, Tuesday night away at Notts County was our 5th away game in a row. We've won four of those, and obviously came to a halt on Tuesday, and then we travel away again on Saturday to Torquay for the second Saturday running. 6 away on the bounce for anybody. It's not just about playing the games, it's the travelling. None of them have been, bar I think Eastleigh's been the closest game we've had, which for me is lovely because it's only an hour down the road, but from Barnet down to Eastleigh is another probably good hour and a half, 2 hours, given the traffic. So the travelling catches up with people's legs, and the squad's not quite, it looks quite deep, but there are a few that when they do come in, they're not adding as much as what the starting 11 does, and I think a lot of that tiredness is starting to creep up a little bit. We've got 2 or 3 injuries which are really affecting us, but after Saturday we're at home for 3 games in a week, so hopefully we'll pick up something at the weekend and then back to massive winning ways at the Hive.
Yeah, I think just to add to that Notts County game, I think it spoke values that obviously Barnet took the game to Notts County in the first half, and obviously in the second half we sort of saw Notts County's real quality and the quality and difference, which we are expecting still. But it shows that if Barnet can, have a half of football where they're competing with a side like Notts County, it shows a lot of positives and shows how far they have come. And I think obviously having that defeat, I don't think it's, well, obviously any defeat we don't want to see, but I don't think it's a defeat where you can go, oh no, it's the end of the world. It's against a really good Notts County side who are still top of the league, and I see this as Torquay away from home, a perfect game to get back to winning games, in my opinion. The Torquay side that was struggling, of course, I've had some slight improvements in recent weeks. Notts County defeated them 2-1 at Plainmoor. Of course, Torquay did equalise against them. Yeah, showing positive signs. Torquay of improvement, obviously down and around that relegation zone in 22nd place at the moment. Didn't play during midweek. Yeah, I think it could be a slight difficult game for Barnet, but I think if they get that early goal, I'd be expecting them to win. Have you got a prediction for this game?
Yeah, I think we'll win 2-0 this time. We're not going to let them find the back of the net.
I'm going to be a little bit more confident towards your way. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Barnet win, in my opinion. A good opportunity to bounce back, and I think they will do so because they've shown this season how good they are going forward and defensively as well. The next game that we'll look at now, an interesting game. This is one Wealdstone versus York. York, I think, in turmoil at the moment, to be honest. Very inconsistent. We've mentioned this for a number of weeks now about them drifting further and further down the league table. Then again, I can actually see them getting something out of this game away at Wealdstone. Let's start with York then. What's been your take on York recently?
Fun enough, I watched them actually back in November at Dorking, not long after John Askey had been sacked, and they didn't really offer a lot that day. To be fair, Dorking possibly just about shady. There were a few half chances that had they put them away properly, then far enemy either at Dan Lincoln or I think it was Dan Lincoln go or wide of the target. It might have been a different story, but David Webb's appointment was a very strange one for me. Lovely, wonderful CV and what he can talk about and what he can do at bigger clubs, but when you come to the National League, it's unforgiving and you've got to really hit the ground running with it. So they've shown a couple of signs in the last couple of weeks, haven't they, that maybe there's a little bit there still, but they're, with people picking up points at the bottom as Oldham as Gateshead did on Tuesday night, York are just getting dragged into that relegation mire a little bit.
Yeah, they certainly are. I think they've probably just got enough quality to stay up, in my opinion. And look at this game, though, and I'm actually going to go for a draw. Wealdstone at home, surprisingly, are a little inconsistent considering how good they can be, away from home this season. York are actually better away from home than what they are at home this season. That might be due to a slight bit of a toxic atmosphere at York at the moment with the, obviously, ownership issues that they're having and the lack of knowledge in obviously introducing a new manager. We've seen the sacking of John Askey was quite controversial within the York fan base. The majority of York fans were sad to see him go. The replacement clearly hasn't worked out. He's now been sacked. And of course, John Askey's rumoured to go back to York. But yeah, just based off the fact that York are probably better away from home quite this season. They're quite strong away from home considering their current position. And of course, Wealdstone as well, being a little inconsistent at home, but obviously they're different in positions. I'd be going for a draw for this game. I'd be going for a 1-1 draw. What would your prediction be?
Yeah, mine's exactly the same, Luke. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I mean, I have to say, Wealdstone have been absolutely fantastic this year. Compared to I had them down in the bottom four, part-time side. The league's getting stronger every year with the amount of full-time sides, and you've got to give them massive credit to Stuart Maynard and Matt Saunders for what they've achieved at Wealdstone so far this year.
Do you think it's still within their rights and they still have the possibility and quality to break into the playoffs? Just looking at the standings at the moment for Wealdstone in 11th place at the moment, but of course only 3 points outside of the playoffs. Do you think it's doable for them to break into those playoff spots?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much football still to play for everybody. I mean, when you look at sides that only played 29 games, and we're almost at the end of February. 16, 17 games still to fit in. Even playing 3 times this month is still going to, have a lot of football to go. So that little bunch sort of underneath us from not quite Southend, but Boreham Wood downwards to probably, if you look at maybe just about Aldershot, they've played 32. It's so tight. I'm really glad we're where we are, and we're not in that little bunch that is constantly changing week on week.
Yeah, it reminds me of the season when, obviously, the COVID season. I remember Halifax were within this, and there was the likes of Eastleigh there. But obviously, they're still Bromley, were there, Boreham Wood in and around there. They were all the same sides that were in there, and it's an awkward place to be because you can have a run of good form, you still can't get out of it, and then suddenly you have 5 poor games and you're falling straight down the league table. It's very, very difficult at the moment. Solihull, we've seen their horrendous form recently, and they've had a slight improvement. And I think that's a game that we could come on to, in fact, of course, Solihull versus Chesterfield. Now, we talk about Solihull and the poor form that they've had. Chesterfield, very, very poor recently, dropping points in midweek to Aldershot away from home. No disrespect to Aldershot, they're having a fairly decent season so far themselves, in 13th at the moment, a good improvement from themselves. But as a Chesterfield side that's obviously wanting to compete and at least this season get into those top 3, it's a poor result to drop points away at Aldershot. And this is certainly not going to be an easy game either, going to somewhere like Solihull Moors.
I think it's at the moment Chesterfield's results are just really surprising. It wasn't a run I saw coming. I didn't expect us to thump them 3-0 at the Hive 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they seem to have just dropped off the pace a little bit. They've still got games in hand on Woking. Barnet obviously breathing down their necks as well at the moment. And as you say, with Solihull, their form has been horrendous. And just when you think they're going to string 2 results together, they go and drop another result. So it's this is probably, I would almost say, it's the toughest game to call this weekend. Is that one?
I can't split the 2 sides, to be honest. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. That'd be my prediction for this game. Like I've mentioned, Solihull obviously in midweek, going to somewhere like Bournemouth and picking up a point. There's a good point from them. Like I've said, this Solihull side's still full of quality, and I think being at home, having that boost after a point away at somewhere like Bournemouth, I'd be expecting them to get something out of this game at the moment. One positive from Chesterfield's perspective, though, might be the signing of Paul McCallum, and not just the signing, but the fact that he got off to a good start, scoring the goal against Aldershot away from home. Maybe they've solved that puzzle they found that missing piece in the jigsaw and found that prolific goal scorer, which they have needed for the majority of the season now.
Yeah, I've seen Paul McCallum firsthand when he was at Barnet two years ago, just before COVID. COVID finished the season off, and if you give him the service, you keep him fit, you've got a 20 goal a season striker. But he has struggled the last couple of years with some with some bad injuries that kept him out for 2 or 3 months at a time. So if they can keep him fit, then the top three is definitely not beyond them. But I'm not banking on him scoring this weekend because I've gone for 0-0.
Oh, a 0-0 draw. So we've both gone for a draw, but now I reckon it'll be 1-1. And now I am banking on Paul McCallum to get the goal this weekend. But I just look at that now and I look at the likes of Woking and Barnet around there. At the moment, they're performing a lot better than Chesterfield. And could they be falling into that trap and not learn the lesson from the previous season where they fell down the table after a good start to the season and almost found themselves drop out of the playoffs last season? Is that something you could possibly see again where come the end of the season we see them all the way down in 7th place or even potentially lower than that?
I think if they do, someone out of that Borehamwood, Bromley, Eastleigh, Dagenham little quartet there have really got to put a run together. And when you look at the latter two that have lost 12 games each already this year, I can't see it. I could see them finishing as low as 6th. They could finish below Southend. Again, that's on them to put a run on. And the advantage is like Barnet, they've got the games in hand on Woking. That third place isn't out of anyone's reach.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat as I know a few people have come in who have just joined us recently now. Dale, Dale, that is, sorry, has come in. I need an interesting stat. Notts and Wrexham have scored 167 goals in all competitions this season, and we are only in February. I'll give you another interesting stat. After Tuesday night's fixtures, Wrexham are on for achieving 110 points in the National League. Notts County are also on for achieving 110 points in the National League. That no side, I don't think, has ever got 110 points in the National League since it was the Vanarama took over, to be honest. So that's just another stat for you there. Chris Gosling, who's also a Notts County supporter, Barnet were brave and left Flea up to stop us playing out the centre-backs. I think we were superb second half, though, and Barnet ran out of ideas. A few more people have come in. Kobe came in. This is quite an interesting thing. Chesterfield were rubbish. Neither side created many chances on Tuesday. And I think when someone says that you're a poor side, just tells you everything about Chesterfield at the moment. A Woking supporter's come in. He'll be over the moon after picking up a point at Wrexham. Evening up the Woking. Have we been predicted yet? No, we're coming on to that game very, very soon. Keza, who is an Oldham supporter. Hello, welcome, Keza. You'll be hoping for a big 3 points on Saturday when you obviously host Maidstone at Boundary Park. Let's go on to our next game then now. So I think I'll let you choose. What would be the next game that you'd like to take a look at?
Go on, let's go Woking.
Woking.
Woking as they asked.
Woking versus Oldham. Well, Oldham versus Woking. Good result for Woking during midweek. I think it speaks volumes of the quality in the Woking side to pick up a point at Wrexham. Not only that, to obviously take the lead and Wrexham to come back to go 2-1 up, and then they still have the character to come back. Obviously, it was a penalty, but to then go on to get an equaliser at Wrexham, I think it speaks volumes and shows the quality that Woking have and how good of a job Darryl Sal has done at Woking.
Absolutely, and I think you can add to the game at Chesterfield a couple of weeks ago when they were 3-0 up at half time. Not many sides go up to the Technique Stadium and take a goal lead, let alone three. Quite comfortably, Woking and Barnet are the surprise packages this year. They really are, and as you say, Darren Silas done a fantastic job at Woking to put them right up there, in the mix. And it's too far out of the way, obviously, for any of them to catch Notts County or Wrexham. But you take those two out of the equation, and you've got a title race between Woking, Chesterfield, and Barnet. And if you'd said beginning of the season, take out the top two, who would you put in a title race? You probably would have gone Chesterfield, Southend, Dagenham, maybe.
Yeah.
Only one of those three. So yeah, absolute credit to Darren Saul. Brilliant job he's doing there.
Yeah, I predicted working 10th, and they've certainly proven me wrong. Although the business was very impressive in the summer, a lot of us were quite naive and predicted working lower down than I think even working fans were expecting them to finish. But I think it is about time that working make that step to compete with the bigger clubs in the league, because, like I've always mentioned, working of probably the biggest club out there that have never entered the Football League in their entire existence. They're getting really good crowds, a lot of good things happening off the field at working at the moment. And now it's great to see from a working fan's perspective on the field as well. A lot of significant improvements, obviously bringing in a lot of quality players. And it's proven there, third in the league at the moment. You've just got a point away at the racecourse. Not many sides are going to do that this season, pick up any points at Wrexham. So I think credit to working for picking up a point there. And I think it's about moving on now. You look at that result. You don't want to be on that result for too long now. You're away at Altrincham, and just a bit on Altrincham. Obviously, it's gone off just now, but just looking at them, obviously they had a poor January transfer window with the players that they lost. The whole spine of the team's been picked apart. Malarkey, obviously Colclough, another player that's gone, left the club. It's not looking good at Altrincham at the moment, and I think there was talk about them obviously breaking into the playoffs if we just look here now. I think that's very, very unlikely, highly unlikely with the players that they've lost. They simply don't have the quality anymore with the players that they lost in the January transfer window. What would your take be on Altrincham at the moment?
I think you're absolutely spot on, Luke. I mean, that fantastic 11-game run they had that really hauled them up into the playoff conversation, and then to lose those players during the window, that they've strengthened to replace them. I wouldn't say they're of the same quality, and as you say, they're going to need a run of similar to that 11 game run they had to get themselves up into it again to have any say of being in the playoff conversation still, I think. But in the first season, I think, of transition from part-time to full-time, they've done slightly better than I expected. I think I had them, I'm not sure if I had them in the bottom four. I think I had them a little bit, about 2 or 3 places higher, just literally because I thought that transition period would be a little bit tougher this year while they get used to going from one to the other. But, when they went on that 11-game run, I was like, wow, a bit like Halifax. When they started slowly and then came up, I thought, they're going to be in the conversation here. And I think Barney at the time were around about 7th spot then. So, it was looking like there was a few clubs that were going to catch us. And then suddenly we powered away, and everyone else has just fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, they certainly have, and it's a struggle for Altrincham now. But how I see it from there, if I was an Altrincham fan perspective, stabilise this season, a strong mid-table finish, and then go again next season, bringing in quality players to replace those players, because it's very rare that you see a team lose 5 key players, and that's half a team, isn't it? Losing 5, and not just 5 players, but key players as well in those positions going forward, and also defensively. So for me, I think Altrincham get to the end of the season, and I think they're probably safe from that relegation scrap at the moment. But then again, the way the season's going, it wouldn't surprise me if they fell into that. But no, I'd say Altrincham are safe from that. I think just based off what we've talked about both sides here, I'm going to go for a working 2-0 win. What would your prediction be?
I've gone Woking 3-1. I think they'll notch another 3 again, and then still be in third place come the end of Saturday evening.
Yeah, they're going very, very strong at the moment. Woking. Next game, then we've got. Let's go to Bromley versus Dorking. Dorking, just a little bit on them. Looking at them at the moment, they are struggling, and like I've mentioned, a lot of sides are starting to find them out that now. They scored 1 goal in 2023, and Bromley have had the 1 defeat in 2023, and that was to Wrexham. I think Dorking, we've always known them since they've got promoted that they'll score a lot of goals, but they'll concede a lot of goals. Well, this new year hasn't been kind to them at all. The 1 goal against Oldham Athletic, obviously that means they haven't scored 1 goal away from home in 2023 either. It's not going well for them at the moment, and I think a lot of sides are starting to find them out now. Bromley, though, obviously they're on decent form at the moment. very hard side to defeat. That's something that I will add about Bromley at the moment. What would your take be on this game?
Yeah, very right in what you said. Dorking have struggled a lot the last few weeks, and I was listening to another podcast with Mark White on yesterday, and he understands what they've got to do. I mean, they're looking to survive this year, nothing more than that. Where they are at the moment, they'd be more than happy if they finish there and build for next year. I think he's made a couple of good signings during the week from last couple of weeks. Sorry, from Crawley, George Frankham, and Tony Craig to shore up the back line a little bit and bringing back Jason Pryor as well. I think hopefully we'll just about get them enough goals. I think I had them about 18th to stay up. We spoke to Mark during the summer on our own podcast, and they find a way to win. They've certainly found it tough for the last few weeks. As you say, they've only scored the one goal this year, but I think bringing Pryor back will buck the trend a little bit. Bromley, I'm just never convinced that they've got that extra bit to become a playoff side. They draw far too many games, and 11 draws. There's only Yeovil, I think, have drawn more games than them this season. That just goes to show they don't seem to have that extra edge to turn the ones into threes, which is what you need if you want to be consistently, in those playoff positions. So, with that in mind, I've gone for a 2-2 draw.
They are known to draw a lot of games, like you've mentioned. I remember the Aldershot game, and that's a game I feel Bromley should be winning at home. But this game now, I'm going to back Bromley, to be honest. I think the difference between the two sides, and I think the quality that will show. Dorking struggling at the moment. I really hope they don't get relegated, because I like Dorking as a side. I like them as a club. But I look at sides at the moment: Scunthorpe improving, Torquay showing signs of improvement, Gateshead fighting for their lives at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Dorking fell into the relegation zone. But I think this is a game where you could see Dorking get something out of it. Bromley, like I mentioned, are known to drop points against your Dorkings, against your lower opposition in the league at the moment. And that's the reason, like you've mentioned, that they're not a playoff side, because they don't have that extra edge. But now I'm going to be backing Bromley in this game. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Bromley win. We'll quickly have another look at the chat, see what people have been saying in there. If I just scroll up here, we've had up here. Mad, Mr. Luke, who is a Gateshead supporter, mad to think that Gateshead is possibly a part of the Southend's last ever home game. Yeah, I don't really want to speak too much on the negatives of Gateshead, Southend tonight. We've talked a lot about that. I've done a full video on Southend United and the problems there. An Oldham spot said, yeah, true, don't get me wrong, they are an amazing side, but due to injuries, as Chris mentioned, and working showing points can be taken from the race course, maybe teams might be more confident. Like I mentioned, I think it was a big statement, working, taking a point at Wrexham. And of course, Wrexham, every side in this division have their injury problems, and it seems that Wrexham are suddenly having a number of injury problems in crucial positions too. Notts and Wrexham only dropped 37 points between us so far this season. And Maidstone fans come in. Not sure Gateshead fans would feel comfortable with that, considering they have 3 and possibly 6 points at risk. We'll come back to the chat later, but for now, let's go on to the next game. So, another game that you'd like to choose and preview?
Let's go Scunthorpe and Dagenham.
Scunthorpe and Dagenham. Now, this is one that interests me, Scunthorpe versus Dagenham, but I'll allow you to speak a little bit on the Daggers so far this season.
They've been so inconsistent. I had them down for a 4th place finish. I thought this year was going to be the year that Daryl McMahon was going to get everyone firing at the same time. They were going to fulfil the potential that was within their squad, and they just go up and down like, well, worse than you and I going up and down stairs of a day. I think it's just unbelievable. Just when you think, like they put 2 results together, like now the playoff charge is coming, they go and lose one, and you think, right, now we're back to square one again. I think they must be the most infuriating National League team to bet on this year, because you never know what's going to turn up.
No.
And
Yeah.
it's I think having lost Josh Walker now and Paul McCallum, I know they signed Effie Young, and so far he's turned in some fantastic performances and goals. He's such a different player to the pair that they've lost. Whether they're losing just the one or both of them might help actually turn that inconsistency into a consistent outfit. I don't quite know. It's just so they're the one side that really baffled me this year. Really baffled me.
Yeah, for me, the same. Dagenham, it's still possible for them to work in the playoffs, but the reason that I don't think they will is because they're not consistent enough. I tip them with 7th place finish. I look at the financial backing that they have, Dagenham, and I think that they should be competing at least within the top 7, and they aren't doing so far this season. They're really, really inconsistent. Look at that one win; it was against a strong Solihull side. Yet they go and lose to Eastleigh at home, and although Eastleigh were a strong side this season away from home, Eastleigh are one of the weaker sides in the division. Just to add to that, Yeovil, who are also struggling down there, done the double over them this season. Torquay have beaten them. Eastleigh, like I mentioned, have beaten them at Dagenham as well. There's a lot more. Oldham, another game where they've lost away from home to an Oldham side that had just lost to Halifax when they played them. And it's this consistency, but yet they go and beat the likes of Chesterfield. That's the difference. And they do have the quality on the forward front, especially with Marias. I like the addition of Effie Young. I'm sure Kirby will have a lot to say on him. He's a really, really good striker this season, and he's proven it for many, many clubs, multiple clubs, in fact. You look at his time at Dover, Aldershot, and had a good start at Dagenham too. 2 terrific goals that he scored at the weekend, but they just aren't consistent enough, and that's Dagenham's problem. Someone that I will blame, and I think, honestly, if they do lose to Scunthorpe, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the next manager to be sacked in the National League. Dal McMahon, the Dagenham manager, is he someone that you have a slight bit of blame towards, the Dagenham manager this season?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I thought last year he was actually one of the luckier managers to still be in a job, literally because, like you say, the budget they've got, the players they've got there were very good National League players, not just average and good. They were very good. But they underperformed last year as well, and I thought, at times this year I felt, is he going to get the push this week, because they just can't find that consistent level. So if they lose to Scunthorpe at the weekend, that could be, like you say, that could be very damaging. Might be. It only gives him 2 or 3 more games before they make a decision. But on the opposite side of it, they're still in that playoff shout. They're not out of it. That might be the one thing that saves him, possibly.
Yeah. Would you want to sack a manager and then have a massive transition when you're still within the playoffs? You're only in touching distance of the playoffs, Dagenham, at the moment. But like I've mentioned, I don't think they're going to do that because they're not consistent enough. This game screams goals for me. Scunthorpe, although they are in 23rd, I think it's 23rd place at the moment. Scunthorpe United are. I'll just double check that. They are in 23rd at the moment. I don't think that side is now a relegation side with the players that they've brought in. These are just some of the names: Joe McDonough, Sean Shields, also Danny Elliott, who they've more or less stolen from Gateshead, who was obviously on loan there from Bournemouth and has now departed Bournemouth to go and sign for Scunthorpe. And that's been Scunthorpe's problem, that losing Nuttall, they haven't had that goal score that they've had. They've now got one. They've improved in the midfield. Butterfield might improve now with better midfielders alongside him. But this goal screams goals for me with the forwards that Scunthorpe United have added. I'm going to go for a draw, and I don't think that's a good result for Dagenham, and perhaps not a good result for Scunthorpe either, because, of course, Scunthorpe, they need to start turning those draws into wins if they are wanting to stay up. Otherwise, they're going to create a gap at the bottom, and it's going to be a tough ask for them to stay up this season. But I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. What would your prediction be on this game?
Well, having since Scunthorpe have had 2 weeks on the training ground, and by the look of Michael Nelson's Instagram, they've been in the gym every single day. I don't think they've had a day off. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Scunthorpe win, and just for Yeovil fans, Ben Richards Everton's going to get the winner.
Yeah, I know he's been getting a lot of criticism, hasn't he, from supporters saying that he's not that good of a defender. Hopefully, from Scunthorpe's perspective, he proves them wrong. Next game, we'll have a look at Southend versus Gateshead. Now, this is an interesting one. Southend in midweek, obviously, came from behind to defeat Halifax at Roots Hall. Gateshead travelled to Oldham and picked up a result there, coming from 2-0 down to pick a result up at Oldham. What would your take be on this game?
Southend are just doing fantastically on the pitch against a backdrop of what's going on off it. How Kevin Mayer, Darren Curry, and Mark Bentley are keeping these players focused when they've not been paid for 2 months is just unbelievable, really. A lot of other clubs, a lot of sides would have probably crumbled during that time, but back in, I think, when was it, October, November? October, I think, was when they came to the Hive. They were absolutely brilliant. They were the form team at the time, really good. The wheels came off a little bit after that, I think, when things started perspiring a bit more off the pitch. But again, the last few weeks, they've bar the York City Trophy game where I think they were a bit under par. They've been fantastic, and Gateshead, like you said earlier, fighting for their lives. They're a little bit inconsistent as well. In some of the games I thought they would pick points up from, they haven't, and then games where I thought they'd get mullered or not take anything from, they've piped up and picked up something. So
yeah, Notts County being one of those games as well early in the season.
Yeah, and against us at Barnet up at the International Stadium as well, we were 2-0 up and they pulled it back to 2-2. But I think Southend just have a little bit too much for them, I think, on Saturday afternoon.
How I see this game, I'm going to go for a bit of a freak result potentially. I see Southend, they're going to drop points this season. It's relentless with what's going off the field. Gateshead fighting for their lives. This won't be an easy game, in my opinion, for Southend at all. Gateshead, they do like to play football, but I think, Gateshead, when they come to Southend, they're going to be like a brick wall defensively, and it's about Southend breaking them down. And are they going to do it? That's going to be the question on Saturday. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. It's just one of those games that I can just see being a draw down there. Like I mentioned, Gateshead fighting for their lives, and I think they'll be hard to break down, in my opinion. And I think Southend, with it being so relentless recently, I think Gateshead will pick up a result here, and Southend are another side that are known to drop points against the weaker sides in the division, and that another side being Torquay. I think Luke, who's in the chat, would also take a point if you were a Gateshead fan, obviously travelling all the way down to Southend. The next game that we will look at then, let's have a look at the televised game. Bournemouth Wood versus Halifax. This has to be one of the worst games to pick. Two sides at the moment. Bournemouth, their traditional hoofball, football, defensive style of play, which is, like we said, effective. Halifax turning into that sort of side as well at the moment with the amount of injuries in midfield. Not a pretty game to be displaying on BT Sport. What would your take be on this game?
An interesting one, isn't it? Because Bournemouth are just coming back into a little bit of form again, aren't they? I think the FA Cup took a lot out of them again. And I mean, Luke Garrard doesn't tend to go away from his favourite formation, and again, he doesn't go away from his playing style either. So players need to come in and fit to that style. And I think that's taken a little bit more time than it normally would for one of his sides, and they're just starting to come together again. Whereas Halifax seem to be going the opposite way again as they were at the start of the season.
You're not allowed to say that, according to certain Halifax fans. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah.
I mean, I thought though when Halifax played against Barnet the other week, when I watched it, that you've got enough ability there to hurt sides, and not just on your own patch as well. And I don't know if there's just a little bit of a confidence issue at the moment. You said with a few injuries as well, that disrupts things. I mean, again, so many games are so difficult to predict in this league because, as we said with Dagenham earlier, you don't know which side's gonna turn up. Halifax could have a lovely journey down on Friday, a lovely relaxing Saturday, and walk away with a 2-0 win. But I fancy Bournemouth Wood at home. They are quite strong there. So I'm afraid, Luke, I don't think you're going to hit the back of the net and Bournemouth Wood are going to win 2-0.
I have to predict Halifax to win according to Twitter, but I know I got a lot of criticism because of what I said on the Southend game, so I don't want to be too negative, although I don't actually think I said anything wrong. For those of you that are on Twitter, I said pathetic 2 goals to concede, something like that. I didn't blame the manager or anything. Yet a fan decided to say, "Oh, we're okay, thanks. We don't criticise the team." How I see it is, we wouldn't have these podcasts if we weren't able to give our opinions.
Right.
No one would want to listen. Who would want to listen to this podcast if I said, "Oh yeah, Halifax are playing brilliant at the moment, near the bottom of the league table. Definitely not underperforming this season." Like I've said, Millington said at the start of the season, we're expecting playoffs. Well, if you look at this at the moment, we're nowhere near the playoffs. We're down in 15th. I feel he's been a little unfortunate with injuries. Keane, Spence, Summerfield, Warburton, 3 key players in midfield. Our midfield must be made of glass, to be honest, the way the amount of injuries that we're having in the midfield. Jamie Cook, one of our forward threats as well. One of the only other forward threats, apart from Diasaru, is also out injured at the moment. So we are struggling for injuries, and you can't really blame anyone for that. But then again, the whole point was at the start of the season, we've brought a lot of depth in, more than we have done in previous seasons, and that doesn't seem to be the case. The manager demanded playoffs. He was still saying we're in a shout for the playoffs 2 weeks ago. Now he's talking about how we could be dragged into the relegation zone. So I don't really understand what's going on behind the scenes at Halifax at the moment. And for this game, I can't see Bournemouth battering Halifax, and I can't see Halifax picking anything up either. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Bournemouth win. I don't think it'll be a pretty game, like I've mentioned, but Bournemouth being at home, Halifax without that, the lack of forward threat, in my opinion, I can't see where the goals are going to come from in this game, with Bournemouth being so strong defensively as well. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Bournemouth win. The next game that we'll have a quick look at. Let's have a look. This is a really big game, in my opinion. Oldham versus Maidstone. Now, just looking at the two sides, Maidstone 24th in the league table. They are a side that are starting to create a slight bit of a gap. The most games played in the division this season, 24th in the league table. Like I've said on recent weeks as well, I honestly feel Maidstone don't have the qualities to survive, and I think if they have any chance of surviving this season, this is a game where they need to be picking up a result at Boundary Park. We saw Gateshead pick up a result up there when, to be honest, I didn't expect them to. So I think Maidstone need to do the same now if they are wanting to have some sort of hope of surviving this season. What would your take be on Maidstone?
Pretty similar, Luke. If I'm tipping Scunthorpe to beat Dagenham as well on Saturday afternoon, Maidstone have got to pick up 3 points at Oldham. Otherwise, they're going to be 4 points adrift. And like you said, having played more games than everyone else, and just sitting bottom of the table, that's a huge, huge ask. I mean, you've only won 5 times as well this year, and only Dorking conceded more goals than them as well. And I think although Oldham have got that inconsistent ability at the moment to not hold on to leads and lose a game where you think they might pick up a point as well, I think they'll be too strong on Saturday afternoon. I'm expecting them to win 2-0, which would lift them maybe 3 or 4 places higher up the table and leave the sides underneath them looking a little bit precariously over the bottom of the shoulder. But yeah, like you, I don't think Maidstone have got enough. I'm a bit baffled as to why they've performed so well in the trophy, not managed to do it in the league, but still not appointed a permanent manager.
Yeah,
a little bit. 2-0 Oldham for me on Saturday.
I'm going to go for 3-0 Oldham. I think Oldham have proven since the January period when they've brought in more players as well, more forwards, that they're starting to score a lot of goals now, Oldham, which was their problem at the start of the season. Yet, of course, they're having a few results here and there where they're a little inconsistent at home as well, losing to Halifax. I thought they were very poor at home. And this is something that Oldham's problem is. They're not consistent, and those key moments in games, like the Gateshead game, 2-0 up, it's you to throw away, and 3 minutes later it's back to 2-2. So there's clearly a few teething problems there at Oldham at the moment. But I think this is the sort of game where Oldham will show their true quality, a big game for them at Boundary Park, big crowd. I think it'll be too much for Maidstone, a step too far, and I think I'm going to go for a comfortable 3-0 Oldham win. The next game then we'll look at is Eastleigh versus Maidenhead. Now, Eastleigh, let's just quickly have a look at the home form just to tell you. 4th best home form in the division this season. Only Wrexham, Notts County and Chesterfield all have a better home form than them. The problem with Eastleigh is, of course, their away form this season, 15th in the division on away form. In the reverse fixture, Maidenhead came out 2-1 winners at Maidenhead. I'll be back in Eastleigh in this game, in my opinion. I think being at home, very strong side at home. The only thing I will say is Maidenhead are the sort of side that would go to somewhere like Eastleigh and pick up a result, a massive banana skin for Eastleigh, in my opinion.
Well, wasn't it last year Maidenhead went to Chesterfield and Halifax, I think, didn't they, in almost consecutive weeks and just like tore the form book to pieces, didn't they? So, yeah, you're not wrong. They've got form for doing this type of thing as well. But, like you say, Eastleigh are very strong at home. Only 3 defeats to the top 2, and Barnet the only other side to win there 2 Tuesdays ago. And that was a bit of a bizarre game that night because they played so well they played well. They won at Southend on the Saturday, and then they just didn't seem to perform very well at home, which is surprising given their home form. But if you're a betting man, you've got it down as a home win, because just how strong their record is at home, you know. And but then last week turned over 4-0 by Maidstone of all teams in the trophy at home. So, like I say, it's so tough to predict. But I'm going to go with another home win for the Spitfires to keep their playoff charge going. And I don't think Maidenhead are going to have a good afternoon. So I'm going 2-0 Eastleigh.
I'm going to go for 1-0 Eastleigh, in my opinion. You know, these are the last 2 league results. I don't particularly count the trophy because I think certain teams will take the trophy seriously, other sides won't, if that sort of makes sense. And I think Maidstone are a side that, in my opinion, took the trophy extremely seriously. They're wanting to get to Wembley, where Eastleigh's main aim is obviously to break into the playoffs this season. And their last 2 games was, of course, a 1-0 win at home to Woking, who, of course, are flying at the moment, and that result hasn't seemed to have affected them. And then yet they've gone to Dagenham as well and got all 3 points there too. So for me, Eastleigh being at home to Maidenhead, I'm going to back them. I think they have a slight bit too much, and I think it's a case of breaking Maidenhead down and being tight defensively, and that's something that I think Eastleigh will do. Good manager there at Eastleigh, in my opinion, and then also on the forward front as well, some really good players. Alfie Lloyd, one of the wonder kids in the National League at the moment, scoring for fun at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to be back in Eastleigh in this game. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Eastleigh win. The next game then that we will look at, I think we are on to the final 2 games now, and it's the 2 big ones. What do you want to go with first? Yeovil v Notts, or Wrexham? Obviously, Aldershot v Wrexham.
Let's go Notts as they're leading the way at the moment.
Yeah. So yeah, Notts, like Trevor's mentioned, are still top of the National League at the moment. I think it shows a lot for Notts side to concede to Barnet, go 1-0 down at half time to Barnet, and then to come back and win 5-1, scoring 5 goals in the second half.
Only 4.
4 goals, sorry, 4 goals in the second half. Luke Williams must have bollocked him, to be honest, at half time, to score 4 goals in the second half. You're a Notts fan, you look at Wrexham. I won't be focusing too much on that. Obviously, it's still in Wrexham's hands, but it shows from Notts' perspective that Wrexham can drop points at home. It's a statement to the league and a statement to Notts County that Wrexham can drop points at home. So what Notts County need to keep doing is just keep winning, consistently keep winning. And this is a game for me where they need to keep winning. They don't want to fall into the trap of what they did last time, where they dropped points at home to Yeovil Town. Of course, a lot of sides now playing against Notts County and basically putting 11 men behind the ball. We've seen Bournemouth do that and been successful. Yeovil was successful when they did that. I think Bromley were also successful when they did that. Obviously, Halifax have tried it and Notts County managed to break them down. It's a case of breaking them down, finding that first goal. And when they find that goal, it seems to click for Notts County. For For me, I look at Yeovil at the moment. Not too much going on there. I don't think they're going to go down, and there's no way in a million years that they're going to break into this sort of playoff mini league. I'll be back in Notts County in this match. I think if they get that early goal, I'll be expecting them to win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Notts County win.
Yeah, same as you back in Notts County. I mean, Yeovil don't tend to concede too many goals either. That's one of the things they did tighten up with under Mark Cooper. And I think, as you say, they've got a little bit more than the others not to get relegated, but they are a little close to that relegation zone at the moment, and they could potentially be, depending on if Gateshead win by about 5 or 6 goals at Southend, then Yeovil could be in the bottom 4, but that's a bit of an ask. I can't see anything other than Notts County winning this one, running away with it again a little bit with a 3-1 win. So not much joy for Yeovil Town, but no Ben Richards Everton own goal anyway for them.
No. But yeah, I think you look at Yeovil, you look at the amount of draws that they've got, more draws than wins or losses this season. Maybe you'd be hoping that as a Yeovil fan, we can pick up a result against Notts County. I can't see Notts County not scoring again against Yeovil. I think they've got the quality going forward. You might have the odd result where Notts won't manage to score, but I think they're not going to do it again. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Notts County win. If I can get the final game up here, there we go. My computer's having a bit of a moment. But the final game that we'll have a look at is Aldershot versus Wrexham. Now, what annoyed me about Wrexham was midweek when they dropped points to Woking, and I watched someone's vlog, and Wrexham fans were booing at full time. And I thought, have you not seen how much of a good position you're in at the moment as a club? You've had Will Ferrell coming to your club in recent weeks. You've got 2 multi-millionaires who are taking you over. And I'm not, obviously, we're all jealous of Wrexham at the moment. I'm not complaining about that. But then for them to drop points against a Woking side that are third in the league at home, that'd been the first time all season you've dropped points. And I heard boos at full time. I clearly didn't understand that. This might be something with Wrexham, though, is that they're having a lot of games at the moment. Obviously, the FA Cup, not only one game against Sheffield United, but the 2 games against them. Obviously, relentless again. Saturday, Tuesday for them. A lot of key players are getting injured at the moment. It seems to be catching up with them. The one thing I will say if I was a Wrexham fan is it's still within your hands. You win your next 2 games and you're back to top of the league. Just looking at those games for Wrexham that are coming up, they've got, I believe, Aldershot, then Scunthorpe at home, and then is it Dorking at home as well. Now, you should be taking maximum points against them, and then, of course, Chesterfield as well, who are on free fall as well at the moment. I wouldn't be panicking if I was a Wrexham fan. You're going to drop points at home this season. No side's not going to drop points at home in the National League. It's never going to happen in this division, unfortunately. But I think, just don't panic. And this is it's always going to be a tough place to go, Aldershot, but I'd be expecting them to win. Maybe the players are getting, I wouldn't expect this, but maybe getting a little carried away with all the things going on the field, off the field, with the celebrities that are coming to the side, the FA Cup run, the increased media attention that's been increasing recently more than it already has with, of course, the impressive FA Cup run. I think it's back to basics. Don't panic, and I think this is a game where just focusing on this game, you should hopefully get all 3 points. What would your take be on Wrexham at the moment?
Just an expectation, isn't it, Luke? That if County win, we've got to win. Despite the fact you've got 2 games in hand as well. That's just what has been bred at the racecourse ground in the last couple of years. And like you said, points will get dropped. Notts County, I don't disagree that they'll drop points. Woking will drop points. Chesterfield are dropping a ton at the moment. I'm sure Barnet will as well. I hope they don't, but I'm sure they will. Yeah. But as you said, it's within their own hands still. They're not as if they're chasing it down and they're relying on Notts County to drop points. They're 2 games in hand, as you say, will put them back on top of the table. But it's such a race between these 2. It's it's lovely as an outsider in a way. Yeah. And it's a little funny watching some of the spats on Twitter as well between County and Wrexham fans. And to be to be completely fair, both sides deserve to be in the Football League next year, but one of them's going to make it, and the other one could cock it right up in the playoffs. But that's just how it is. But the weekend, I don't see them losing this one. They'll almost match Notts County. I'm going 3-0 Wrexham, so 2 wins for the top 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. I think Aldershot will score being at home. Good going forward. Like I said, I'm a loser. Ryan Glover, another player. But I think Wrexham have just a bit too much for him. And I think they'll be able to bounce back. More than ever, they need to bounce back. And I think they'll show their true quality. Like I've mentioned, Notts side, Wrexham side, they're 2 League One sides on the field with the quality that they've got on display. One of them is going to have to go through the fearful playoffs. The dreaded playoffs is probably a better term to use come the end of the season. Imagine finishing on 110 points, over 100 points even, and then still having to play in the playoffs. Still 2 games away from the Football League. It doesn't sit right with me, and that's another reason why we need to have a 3 up, 3 down system, which should hopefully come into play in the upcoming seasons. But yeah, I wouldn't be panicking if I was a Wrexham fan. You're going to drop points this season at home. I think it probably did feel like a loss because of how good they've been at home. But I think now going to somewhere like Aldershot, I'd be expecting them to win, and I think they will do. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Wrexham win. And that more or less wraps the fixtures that we're going to be previewing up. Trevor, it's been great to speak to you tonight. Like I've mentioned, Notts and Wrexham are both on for 110 points at the moment. Now, that is mad. This has to be one of the greatest title races in any league of football. Trevor, it's been a pleasure to have you on once again to speak about all the upcoming National League games.
Thanks for having me on, Luke. Appreciate it.
No problem. Hopefully we'll have you on again very, very soon. Cheers to everyone that's also tuned in to tonight's edition of the podcast. If you have caught us late, please feel free to rewind and watch the podcast again. Anyone that's watching this as a video, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye for now.